Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Fishbowl. As always, I'm Preston.
I'm Rayna.
I'm Harmony.
And today we have a very special guest with us to talk about some topics of during this transition and a transparent talk about mental health. So, Rayna, if you want to go ahead and get us started and bring on today's episode.
Absolutely. Today we're going to talk a little bit about mental health and divorce and challenges, as well as co-parenting. So with our guest today, want to talk a little bit about some of those challenges that maybe you faced within your divorce process and maybe the co-parenting. And I believe you have had some of those challenges. You have how many children? Three children. Okay. So within that divorce process and the mental health challenges that you may or may not have had, also, thank you for being here today. We really do appreciate that.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, absolutely. So co-parenting on a scale 1 to 10, how is your co-parenting? 10 being great, 1 not so great.
I'd have to say 1.
Okay, so that would be a challenge. Then you would say yes.
If it even exists, yeah.
Okay. So what would you say as far as within mental health and the mental health community? Have you had any mental health interventions within that divorce process, either for yourself or in the co-parenting or for the children?
Yeah, the children have had a lot of assistance in that area.
Did you find it beneficial?
Oh yeah.
Okay. What were some of the things you found beneficial?
It helps the children communicate effectively what they're feeling.
Okay.
Sometimes it's hard for them to express what the underlining desire that they're trying to focus on, and through the mental health sessions.
So was that like with services as far as with individual therapy, or what other services did you have?
Yeah, the individual therapists.
Okay. Great. Were there any other services that you engaged in throughout that divorce process?
We did only very, very short term, like social investigation, that type of stuff.
What was your experience with that?
I think it's difficult for any particular person, even through that investigation, to fully understand what's happening.
Okay, so would you mind sharing just your personal, and again, not any details of it, but more so, because at Foundations Counseling, so I personally have done social investigation. So this is a great thing to kind of talk about. Those can be very, very invasive, number one. So would you agree?
Oh, yeah. Okay. But I think you got to be pretty thorough before you can approach any type of answer from their part or your part, so if you're going to be conducting it. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. You have to definitely be thorough. So somebody that went on the other side, not the professional side, so from the personal side, what would you say was like, would you say it was invasive?
No, because the answer that you're hoping to get can only be acquired through that invasive process. The part about the social investigation that was offsetting for me was their either inability or unwillingness to create a definitive answer from the data that they collected. They like to share what they found and then not derive at a final answer, which makes things complicated.
Okay, so I see. Okay, so would you say that there was more of a biased approach within your social investigation?
That or just a hesitancy to make a determined outcome.
Okay.
Because then that could, anytime anyone is 100% certain of something, they leave themselves open for liability, I suppose.
Okay. That makes sense. Preston, Harmony, do you guys know what a social investigation is fully?
Yes.
Okay.
So as an outsider who's not in the mental health world, full time, not a mental health professional, I'm not aware of what a social investigation is.
Okay. So being able to kind of dive in a little bit more, especially with what our special guest has gone through that. So as a clinician, social investigations are ordered by a court if there's a high conflict divorce situation. And so sometimes what happens is attorneys or a situation a judge would order a unbiased party or a clinician that has been trained to come in through this situation with this family and do exactly what that's called, is a social investigation. So then you go in and the investigator goes through what is called the factors of the court and pulls out all of these situations, and then they investigate mom's side, dad's side, or parent one side, parent two side, and also engages with the children. Sometimes it's also, you have collateral interviews also, and it's a long process. How long was yours, would you say, if you can recall?
Probably it's over 6 weeks.
Okay. Oh, well, that's actually a short one. Yeah, for sure. Okay.
How long have you seen them go?
The one that I have done, my investigation process, I would say, was probably anywhere between, I would say, almost 6 months long. And then if you're writing up the report and engaging into the situation, I mean, typically the courts would state, and again, I'm not an attorney, not giving any legal advice here, but typically the courts would utilize a report up to 12 months.
Okay.
And then after 12 months, they consider what they call the report being stale. And then you'd have to go in as the investigator or the evaluator and do what's an updated report or a reevaluation in the situation. But usually, sometimes it's hard because there's challenges of one parent or the schedules, and depending on how many different collateral interviews that you have going on, to go through all of those different factors that you have to come in. And then if there's different allegations that one parent comes up with, then you have to investigate those allegations themselves.
Gotcha.
Kind of similar of what you had?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, to touch on that, I think also what's really important is to be able to conduct a social investigation. It's not easy. I think there's a lot of different aspects that come into play. So the reports can take 6 weeks or 6 months. I mean, it just depends on the case itself and the...
Yeah, it sounds like it could be, every investigation is wildly, vastly different. And then also it does sound like it can kind of be a rabbit hole, if you will, where just like one thing leads to another, and then it just kind of stacks on top of each other and leads to more and more and more investigations and more interviews and more, conduction and all that stuff.
100%. And the absolutely 100%. That's what we've seen a lot of times. And even at foundations, one of the things we kind of go to is more of like a child custody evaluation or a parenting assessment, where we rely a little bit more on parent direct contact and doing more direct observation rather than going down what you called, Preston, that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what would you recommend as far as co-parenting in a situation? So would you categorize your divorce as it being a high conflict divorce?
Absolutely.
So, and what tactics have you attempted to try to co-parent with your ex-partner?
We're limited primarily to OFW.
Okay. So
Our Family Wizard.
What's OFW, please?
Our Family Wizard. It's a communication app that's court monitored between the parents. There's other ones like Talking Parents and stuff like that, but these are strictly monitored by the courts. Everything is recorded. Nothing can be deleted.
Okay. Thank you.
Communication platform.
Thank you.
So with that, do you want to talk a little bit more of what the benefits are of
Yes.
OFW?
So Talking Parents, Our Family Wizard, different communication apps that are monitored by the courts. It can ensure safety for both parents, even the children's involved. There's phone calls that are recorded, video calls. If parents are ordered to do once a week or twice a week video calls with the children, and it goes through this recording app where everything's monitored. You can't delete any messages. If it ever comes down to it, having all the communication logged where you can go back and refer to it. If something arises, you guys can have it as proof to submit it through the legal system. It's a safe, secure app to make sure, once again, it's just monitored by the courts.
Gotcha.
And a lot of times as the clinician or as a guardian ad litem or within supervised visitations, parents will give us as the providers access to be able to monitor or have that communication so that we're engaged within what's happening outside of sessions.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Now, is that something like you can, like if you're doing like supervised visitation, can you communicate with a parent on OFW? Like,
Yes.
Okay.
They just have to give us access to that.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah, that started years ago, and I feel like that's been a very beneficial ways of communicating. So you said that you're limited to that. So is that been the only strict way, or have there been other ways that you have attempted to co-parent?
So for communication purposes, it's not the only thing allowed, but it's the only thing that is effective.
Okay.
And with the co-parenting situation, it's not possible to co-parent when you are not able, when you work to come to an agreement and then it's not carried through on both sides, then the communication becomes pointless.
Oh, 100%. I agree with you on that. So what advice would you give to anybody out there that's struggling with a similar situation? If they're out there and they're struggling with co-parenting with their partner or ex-partner, or especially if there's kids involved, what advice would you give them?
What's the outcome? What are we shooting for an outcome? For the betterment of the children, for effective communication?
I would say a little bit of both. Effective communication for the betterment of the children. I mean, co-parenting's not easy. I think it's very clear. Co-parenting's not easy, but at the end of the day, there are children are involved, and there's two parents that have to make the decisions and be able to, if they can, as best as they can, co-parent together for those children.
I would say just making sure that you do what you say you'll do.
So following through.
And that's about, and if everybody just makes sure they follow through with that, then I don't see where the problem would come from.
So if someone's struggling out there with the co-parent, if you're being able to have control over what you're going to do.
Correct.
Basically, and not worrying about what the other person's doing, right?
That's
so
right.
I think, Preston, that's a lot of what we've even talked about.
Yeah, I feel
What's
like
in
that,
your control and what's out of your control.
I mean, that's been like one of the biggest things I've had to work on, like obviously not in a co-parenting sense, but just like in a personal sense. I feel like I always get wrapped up in other, like trying to control uncontrollables and stuff. And that can kind of, I'll use the term again, lead to a rabbit hole, where with your thoughts or with your actions and stuff like that, if you're trying to control uncontrollables. And I just feel like that's, one of the biggest like things I've learned through my personal mental health journey and through growing up and, getting in talking to somebody. And, that's where those resources come into play.
Yeah, for sure. I think knowing what's in your control and what's out of your control comes into play with, all relationships, co-parenting, friendships, your relationship with your children, your spouse, your partner, marriage. Just knowing your control bubble, what's in it.
For sure.
Control yourself and not others.
Are there any other resources that you feel like that helped you throughout this journey that you've had, or anything that you'd like to share or that you can think of?
The easiest route for me to go now is to spin off toward the Bible, but I don't know if that's this type of podcast.
That's okay. Hey,
that's
transparency, we're all about it. So anything flies here. So absolutely.
That's great.
One of the things that I've realized is that most negative feelings or states of negative emotion come from not getting your expectation. So, and it's kind of like built into what you were saying, Preston, about what you can control. So if your expectations, you allow them to only solely be based on what you have control over, then you can effectively always be a joyful person.
Yeah.
And if your final and most important expectation is your salvation through Jesus Christ, and you dedicate your life to the words that he says, and you know that you're saved, then actually nothing else in life matters. So it's actually been a long time since I've had a bad day, regardless of what happens with the co-parenting.
I love that.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
absolutely love that. I think, it's just, that's very well said. Very, very well said.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
So, how long has Foundations Counseling been offering, services like supervised visitation and
That's
co-parent?
my baby.
Yeah.
Since the beginning.
That's what
absolutely.
I thought. That's what I thought. I was thinking, I feel like, been at Foundations and been a part of the team at Foundations for a couple of years now. And I've, as it's grown, definitely feel like it's always been a big part of Foundations identity, if you will, of, how you can exceed in that realm of the mental health world and the court-ordered world and all that.
Absolutely. My mentor, Karen Omi from Florida State, she has been such a big part of my growth from years and years and years ago, help guiding me and, building the supervised visitation, and such a big part of that program. And as Harmony has become part of the program, and we also have Miss Nancy as part of the program as well, it's just the aspect of supervised visitation or reunification therapy, co-parenting, and having both parents involved in that program is so imperative. And sometimes parents don't realize that. But to answer your initial question, since day one, since Foundation has started, that was really probably the first case that I probably even had before therapy, because also one of my mentors from, hopefully that we can get him on here, from Coastal Behavioral Therapy, Isidro, that was one of the programs that he decided to kind of, I ran at Coastal Behavioral Therapy, but he did not want to continue to have, just because there's a lot that goes into it. I'm sure that Harmony can definitely attest to that. But since day one, and we will continue to have that program no matter what. So yes, if you need any more information on co-parenting or supervised visitation, definitely check our website. It's under our tab at www.fc321.org.
And to add to that, we do also have co-parenting sessions that we offer as well on top of the supervised visitation and the reunification therapy. Co-parenting sessions are a part of a lot of our supervised visitations for the parents to learn how to be able to have a relationship effectively as you fade out of supervised visitations and slowly roll into unsupervised and being able to do it on their own.
Absolutely. Yep.
To add everybody, on May 12th, there is a mental health event celebrating National Mental Health Month at the Melbourne Auditorium.
We will be there with an amazing booth and amazing bags.
Super, super cool. You'll have to come check it out. It is free to the Brevard community. It's a mental health educational symposium. So please be there. It starts at 9 a.m.
There we go. Make sure you come out to the event and stop by the Foundation's counseling booth.
Oh, we are going to have the
Lots of
coolest
surprises.
bags.
I think we have some
surprises.
pretty cool things, especially related to the Fishbowl. So I'm very excited for you guys to see that. But make sure you guys check out the event. It's going to be an awesome event to, bring awareness to a very, very important month of, being Mental Health Awareness Month.
Yeah.
So make sure you guys stop out and check that out. But I think that's pretty much all we have for you guys today. So thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the Fishbowl.
And thank you to our special guests.
Yes,
we appreciate
you so
your
much for
input. And
Thanks for letting me come.
absolutely.
Thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate it. And for everything you shared and,
Your experience.
Your experience, your advice. Hopefully somebody listening takes that with them.
Yes. Thank you.
As always, I'm Preston.
I'm Rayna.
I'm Harmony.
And we will see you guys in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.